You are listening to the Maple Footy Podcast, the unofficial football podcast of the North. I'm your host, Sam Little. Find me on socials at SamLittle44 and the podcast at Maple Footy Pod. And now there's nothing left to say except for sit back, enjoy, and welcome to the show.
Hello, yes, and welcome back to the Maple Footy Podcast. We played in the intro, so you already know what we are. We're the unofficial football podcast of the North. And before we get into this one properly, we uploaded our interview with KJ Tavernier of Forge, one of their most exciting young players. If you have not checked it out, stop this one, go check it out, and then come back and watch/listen to this one. I think it was a really good interview. KJ was top-class guy, and of course made his first start for Forge over the weekend for the season. So really happy for him, and I think you should check out the interview because why not? It's a crisp 22 minutes. So yeah, definitely you can listen to that on the treadmill if you so feel inclined to. But yeah, definitely one that's worth a listen. We have another interview with another Forge youngster dropping on Friday. Anthony Aromatario will be joining the podcast. Really much looking forward to you hearing that one. I think it turned out really, really, really good. So yeah, definitely check that one out when it does drop. But before that, check out the one with KJ as well. Outside of that, we're going to start this one off how we do with some of these, whether it be transfer news, injury updates, and all that fun stuff. Then we'll hop into what our guys were doing abroad, what they were doing in Canada, what they were doing in the MLS, because, of course, the CPL is back. Played the first batch of games over the weekend, so we will get into those later on in this recap. But starting out with some transfers that happened over the international break that I didn't want to talk about in depth because I didn't want to muddy the waters of the Canada match recaps that I was doing. But this was probably the biggest transfer involving Canada soccer. I say involving Canada soccer. It really doesn't. I just want to talk about it because my excuse for talking about it is Maxime Crepeau plays for Orlando, but Canada soccer had nothing to do with this transfer. But we'll talk about it. Antoine Griezmann. If you know me, you know he's one of my favorite players of all time, will be joining Orlando City in the MLS. He's long been saying that he'd love to finish his career in the MLS, so looks like he might be sticking to the word and might be finishing with Orlando City, depending on if he finishes with Orlando City is my point. He is officially joining Orlando City, but, we saw Giroud and Ibrahimovic come to the MLS being like, yeah, this is it. And then they went and played for 24 more teams after the MLS. But regardless, Antoine Griezmann, this is a huge signing, I think, for Orlando. He has all the potential to be the league's best player. Oh, Sam, Messi plays in the league. I don't care. Antoine Griezmann, that's the GOAT right there, in my opinion. Not actually. But yeah, I genuinely do think that he could be the best player in the MLS. He still is doing bits for Atletico Madrid. He probably could have stayed longer in La Liga, but of course he is getting older. All that fun stuff that you got to worry about when you're a professional athlete. So I fully understand this transfer, and Orlando is going to need all the help they can get. It has not been a good start to the season for them. Elsewhere, Kosi Thompson in the MLS has left TFC after a number of years. He'll be going to the Colorado Rapids. I think that this is a beneficial move for him, kind of in and out the TFC lineup, inconsistently playing, whether it be right back, center back, sometimes midfield. So I think that maybe a change of scenery and then hopefully some stability in where he's going to be playing and some consistency in how much he's going to be playing, I think could really benefit him. I do think that there's a player there, and I think that Colorado might be able to consistently show Kosi Thompson on display, whereas with TFC, one game they'd ask him to be a fullback, one game they'd ask him to be a center back, one game they'd ask him to be a midfielder, one game they'd bring him in for 24 seconds, and there was a lack of consistency and a lack of stability, I think, for him with TFC over the last 2-ish years. So I fully get this transfer. I hope he does really well. Young Canadian boy, hoping that he goes and does really well. Elsewhere in the CPL, some signings. Wesley Timoteo made his debut for Ottawa over the weekend, and I think this is a very big signing for Atletico Ottawa. I think he's a good player. He had a very good season with Halifax last year. I was pretty shocked to see them not re-sign him, but of course we don't know the ongoings and whatnot, all that fun stuff of behind the scenes football. But yeah, I do think that this is a big signing for Atletico Ottawa. I think he's going to do really well. Elsewhere for Vancouver FC, Mousset has signed with Vancouver FC, formerly of Sheffield United. He was also their second top goal scorer back in that Premier League season where they almost qualified for the Champions League. So that's showing you the caliber of player that Vancouver FC have just attracted to the CPL. That is a huge signing. Elsewhere, Adam Perlman has joined Cavalry on loan for the rest of the season, on loan from TFC. Of course, he spent last season with Halifax, did really well there. Looked like maybe TFC were going to integrate him this season with how he had started the season with TFC, but didn't make an appearance for them through the 4 or 5 games he was available for them. Now he's gone on loan to Cavalry. Makes sense. Want to develop him, obviously, get him some game time. Cavalry, of course, a very good team to go and develop your game at. So, yeah, I think this could be a very good signing for Cavalry. Elsewhere, talking about injuries now, Alistair Johnston, we had a bit of a roller coaster with his injury updates this week. Came back from the Canada camp to Celtic. Apparently, maybe worsened the injury. There were some reports saying, but now reports are also breaking that he could play a little bit for Celtic before the end of the season. So, who knows is my takeaway from this. I do hope that he can get healthy, especially ahead of this World Cup. He has missed a lot of football this season, only played a handful of games so far in all comps this season. So hoping that he can get healthy, stay healthy heading into the World Cup. He's a class player. Would be a shame if he doesn't get to display that at the World Cup, and I think he'd be a huge miss for Canada if he isn't there, but we won't think that. We'll think positive thoughts and hope that he is healthy, fit, and firing going into this World Cup. In Celtic, in Scotland, elsewhere, Derek Cornelius could be back in the plans with Rangers. Reports were breaking before the international break that the manager was basically like, yeah, I'm kind of just going to exile him to the second team. Sorry. But it looks like apparently that could be changing. He's apparently open to the idea of reintegrating him back into the fold for Rangers over the next couple of games. Of course, only a handful of games left in this season. I think it was a shame when Cornelius went down with an injury. One, because he is only a loan. So when you're a lone player, you want to play as much as you can to impress, to maybe get that permanent move. And it was a shame that he went down with the injury because he was playing quite well for Rangers from August to November. And then, of course, the injury happened in November, and he's been out pretty much ever since. So that is a shame, but hopefully maybe he can get reintegrated into the squad and we can see him fit and firing ahead of this World Cup because he's another one of Canada's most crucial players. And then there was an injury scare where Canada Twitter had its heart in its mouth when Ishmael Kone came off versus Swallow during a 2-1 win over the weekend in the Serie A. But Ishmael Kone has confirmed via his Instagram that it was just a cramp. So thank goodness for that. That would have been a huge blow for both Sassuolo, Kone, and the Canadian men's national team. So hopefully we're done with these injury crises and woes and all those fun things as I'm knocking on wood. I hate injuries. Oh my gosh. But yeah, really happy that Kone looks like he avoided something major. Just a cramp. We'll take that. Thank you very much. So why don't we take a quick trip over to Europe, as I can tell you a little bit about the happenings in Europe from this past weekend. Because one of the biggest stories in Canadian men's national team news was Alphonso Davies returned from injury again this season and helped change the game against Freiburg for Bayern Munich. Grabs the game-winning assist in the dying seconds of the game. It was a comeback victory for Bayern as a whole. They came back from 2-0 to win it 3-2 at the death. Alphonso Davies came on in about the 85th and played that last 5 minutes and then the remaining 8-ish minutes of stoppage time. So he came on. It was still 2-1, so shows you the Alphonso Davies effect. That's my left back right there. But genuinely was really happy to see Alphonso Davies come on. Hopefully now he can, as I keep saying for any guy that's been struggling with injury, hopefully now he can stay fit heading into this World Cup because you saw his quality pretty much instantly. Of course, grabs the game-winning assist. You just see how he operates as a defender and then, of course, as an attacker. But he plays the fullback position how I would want my fullback to play. Good defensively, can bomb up the wing, can create things, but never just staying up there. He always gets back. So I'm a big fan of Alphonso Davies at left back. And I think this game kind of showed that he had some big defensive contributions in those 15 minutes that he played as a whole, and then of course goes up the pitch, grabs a great equalizing assist. It was a great play by Bayern as a whole. Alphonso Davies occupying a huge load of space on the wing, makes no mistake with that space, finds the perfect ball in the last seconds. You could see how happy the Bayern team was for him as well. They all started running over him. Vincent Kompany was on the field celebrating with Alphonso Davies. So he's been through a lot this over a season now. It's been about over a year now of him struggling with injuries galore, it seems like. So really, really hope that he can stay fit. He's the best left back in the world, in my opinion, when he's healthy. So need him to stay fit heading into this World Cup. But was hugely, hugely happy to see him grab this moment, I guess, and really show everybody, nah, like, I'm still here. Yeah, been injured, but we back. And I love that. Love Alphonso Davies, as any Canadian would. We'll go to England for the rest of this European recap here because a lot happened in England. A lot of our other boys had kind of quieter weekends. So we'll talk about what's going on in England, because one of the biggest stories coming out of England this weekend was that Southampton dumped out Arsenal in the FA Cup to book a ticket into the semifinal at Wembley. Oh my gosh. Amazing. One, I'm an Arsenal hater. I don't like Arsenal at all, so I'm sorry if you're an Arsenal fan watching / listening to this. Not sorry that I'm a hater. I'm sorry that you support Arsenal. But elsewhere in this match, Cyle Larin comes on, plays extra time. He doesn't grab a goal or anything, but this was a huge moment for Southampton, a big upset against Arsenal. So really happy to see Cyle Larin get to be involved in this. Really cool story for Southampton as well, getting to the semifinal of the FA Cup whilst being a essentially second division team. So really good for them, as they also are continuing their playoff push as well. They didn't play in the league over the weekend. Of course, we're a bit occupied in the FA Cup, so no updates on where they are in the league. Well, technically there is. They were kind of overtaken by Wrexham, but they do have that game in hand now, as they haven't played. So really happy about this one. I'll never be upset when Arsenal loses. Let's be real. And I'll be even happier if a Canadian is on the pitch against Arsenal when they lose, which was the case here. So, yeah, shout out Cyle Larin. Absolutely love Cyle Larin. Looking quite good for Southampton, and looking even better after Arsenal lost to Southampton, and Cyle Larin will get to play at Wembley, which is going to be really, really cool. So definitely we'll have to check that one out. They will be playing Manchester City in the semifinals, so definitely not going to be an easy one at all. But, I mean, hey, if you can beat Arsenal, I guess you can go on and maybe beat other teams too. Not that I rate Arsenal too highly. But, yeah, I think this is a great moment for Southampton, so really happy that Cyle Larin got to be a part of it. Elsewhere, for English championship teams, the ones that played in the championship over the weekend, Hull City drew Oxford 1-1. Liam Miller played the final 7 minutes, and now they played Coventry as of today, as of recording. I wasn't able to push recording off until after the game, so that kind of sucks. But hopefully, Hull City and Liam Miller can grab a big win over Coventry. It's going to be difficult. Coventry, of course, leading the pack in the championship. They've been first pretty much all season, if not all season, and it's going to be difficult. But Hull City needs to rack up more points to really ensure themselves going into the playoffs. So hopefully this doesn't age poorly and Hull do win. So we will keep our fingers crossed. But by the time you're watching this, we will know the score of the Hull City game. And hopefully it was a good one for Liam Miller and Hull. Elsewhere, another Canadian boy was in the thick of the action. Norwich drew 1-1 with Portsmouth. Ali Ahmed played the final 27 minutes of that one. Then, of course, huge win over Millwall as well, just before I clicked record on this video or podcast. And huge one for them there. Ali Ahmed went the whole 90. And Millwall, of course, a team that is also in those playoff spots. So shout out Ali Ahmed and Norwich for trying to help out our other Canadian boys. And yeah, Norwich have looked class since January. Some huge signings. I don't want to beat the dead horse here, but huge signings have really helped them. Ali Ahmed, of course, being one of those big signings, has really helped them find their form, find their footing, and really have not put much of a foot wrong since January. Both Ali Ahmed and Norwich as a whole, they've been very good. They're now in the top 10 as well, which, considering they were battling relegation back in January, now they're in the top 10. I mean, it's an outside shot, but genuinely, there could be a possibility where you do see Norwich in the playoffs. Once again, that's an outside shot, but anything is possible. But yeah, I do think that Norwich have just been class since January. And if you're a Norwich fan, I think you got to be excited going into next season and really licking your lips at the prospect of maybe we could bounce up to the Prem following next season. So we will wait and see. Elsewhere, Daniel Jebison went the final 23 minutes in a 2-2 draw with Leicester, and they will be playing QPR as of recording. Same with the Liam Miller and Hull thing. Couldn't push the recording back to give you an update on that game. So once you're listening / watching this, you will know what the score of Preston and QPR was. Hopefully, once again, it's positive for Preston. Would love to see Daniel Jebison maybe grab a goal or two. Maybe that'll age well, hopefully. But yeah, so Daniel Jebison and Preston kind of in mid-table range now. They've really dropped off, have Preston. There was a point in the season where they were kind of challenging for playoff spots. No longer the case. They're kind of dropped back down to like 14th or 15th. So that kind of does suck. But you never know. Maybe they could pull a Norwich going into next season and they have a great season out of nowhere. And we see that happen. But Daniel Jebison may not be with them next season. He's only on loan. So we'll let you know where Daniel Jebison goes when he's done the loan spell at Preston. But yeah, that kind of brings us wrapping up in Europe. We'll take a trip back to North America now. We'll talk about the first CPL games of the season and the MLS. So let's get into that. So we'll start with the MLS action, I think. I think that might be the best way to start this because there's a lot to say for some of our boys in the MLS. We'll start with Orlando. Oh, man. If you're an Orlando fan, I'm so sorry. This has not been a good start to the season at all. And it got even worse over the weekend as they lost 6-0 to LAFC. Don't get me wrong, LAFC, quite the good team, and we'll praise them in just a minute. But Orlando, I have no idea what's going on here. Managerial change at the start of the season, players not playing up to the best of what I think they can play up to, and then Maxime Crepeau getting left out to dry during a World Cup year where he's trying to become the number one. But when you're the goalkeeper conceding so many goals, eventually it's going to reflect poorly on you, even though another game goes by where he's conceded a lot of goals, and I watch going, most of those aren't even on him. He's just been hung out to dry, and there's not much you can do about some of those goals. So I think if you're Crepeau, you might be a little bit worried heading into the World Cup, because if Orlando keeps conceding goals, whether he's at fault or not, at the end of the day, sadly, he is the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper will take the flak for a lot of the goals going in, irrespective of if he should have done better or if he shouldn't have done better on some of these chances. So I feel for Crepeau because, you know, he does make saves. He does make saves, and I do think he is a class goalkeeper. And this is going to sound crazy given that he just conceded 6 goals over the weekend. I do still think he's one of the best keepers in the MLS, but we just are not seeing it right now, and I don't think it's really much to do with him. Orlando just not looking good at the moment. I don't think a prime Gianluigi Buffon could help save them right now. So maybe Antoine Griezmann will be the savior for them coming into the rest of the season once he joins them in July. But there's still a lot of time between now and July, and then that's a lot of expectation on Antoine Griezmann to essentially dig them out this huge hole that they are really starting to carve themselves. So yeah, feel for Crepeau. And need Orlando to figure this out, because I would love to see Crepeau starting for Canada at the World Cup. But on the flip side of this, LAFC looking like the best team in the MLS at the moment. They are firing and firing. and firing. They look really, really good. A couple Canadians got in for this one as well. Mathieu Choinière and Ryan Raposo came in for this. And then Jacob Schaffelberg finally making his LAFC debut, shaking off that injury now, which is very good to see. Love to see that. I'm a fan of Schaffelberg. And he grabbed the assist on the 6th goal. So showed pretty quickly what he's capable of. Great ball in. Nice little tidy finish from LAFC. So yeah, Jacob Schaffelberg, hope he can stay healthy, because I do think that there could still very well be a place for him at this World Cup. I still think that he has something to offer this Canada team going into the World Cup. I know those wing spots they're rather depthy, but I do think that Jacob Schaffelberg, regardless of that, we have great wingers like Liam Miller, Tajon Buchanan, Ali Ahmed, now Marcelo Flores showing what he can do. I do still think that there is a spot for Jacob Schaffelberg on this plane. So hopefully that could be the case if he can stay healthy and continue to maybe grab a couple more assists. But yeah, I do think that this is positive to see Jacob Schaffelberg back. Happy that we have a good few Canadians playing for LAFC, because we can kind of claim them as our honorary Canadian team this year. But elsewhere, Dane St. Clair took on Jaden Nelson as they ended 2-2. Inter Miami and Austin. Dane conceded 2 goals, obviously, hence 2-2. Another one that's kind of, he hasn't looked bad, don't get me wrong, but definitely has yet to hit the heights that he did last season with Minnesota. So hoping that he can really find that form. And then on the flip side of that, happy for Jaden Nelson. I'm a fan of Jaden Nelson. I don't think with the depth that we have at the moment that Jaden Nelson will be going to this World Cup, which is a shame, because I think if this World Cup was maybe last year around, I do think that there would have been a spot for Jaden Nelson, because he was having such a good season with the Whitecaps, especially at the start of the season. I thought he had a great start to the season, but now we got him at Austin grabbing a goal. It was a very tidy finish from him. Basically catches Inter Miami on the breakaway, keeps his keeps his composure, and slots it past Dane St. Clair off the post. And very nice finish from him, and a big result for Austin against one of the league's best teams. So yeah, credit to Jaden Nelson grabbing the 2nd goal for Austin. Game ends 2-2 in that one. Elsewhere, Sporting Kansas City lost 3-1 to Real Salt Lake, but I'm mentioning this because Stephen Afrifa got the last 15 minutes for Kansas City. So happy that he's kind of playing a little bit more this season than he did last season. Of course, I've mentioned in the past last season, he really didn't play a whole ton for Sporting KC. So it's very good to see him kind of get reintegrated into the squad now, getting to play a little bit more. Hopefully that continues, and hopefully those minutes keep going up. But my favorite part of this game, because I'm Maple Footy is the home of the Zorhan Bassong fan club. Love Zorhan Bassong. I just love the way he plays. Plays with just such passion. I think he's a quality player. He's just the type of player that I'd want on my team. He locked his first minutes of the season for Sporting Kansas City. So yeah, it wasn't a great weekend for Sporting KC, but it was a great weekend for the Zorhan Bassong fan club. So hopefully that this is the start of something really good for him in this season. Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy for the New York Red Bulls went the full 90 in a 4-2 win over Cincinnati. Another guy who could potentially be making himself an option for the World Cup. Of course, Jesse Marsh has now selected him for a couple of Canada squads in the past, has now made his official men's national team debut against Tunisia, and he's started the season quite well with the Red Bulls. So maybe if defender injuries keep on, then we could see Jaquil Marshall-Ruddy potentially find himself in the World Cup squad if he can keep this kind of form up. And lastly, in the MLS, before we hop into some of the Canadian MLS teams, Lucas McNaughton grabbed a last-minute assist equalizer for St. Louis as they drew 1-1 with New York City FC. When he was substituted on, I don't think the plan was for him to grab the game tying assist. Of course, you bring on center back, you're kind of just going, hey man, let's not concede. We're bringing you on so that we look defensively sound. But Lucas McNaughton, man of many talents, grabs himself the assist on this goal. So really happy for him. I'm a fan of Lucas McNaughton, so yeah, just happy that he got that moment, and St. Louis grabbing a big point against New York City FC. So looking at our Canadian teams in the MLS, we'll start with Montreal because I have the least to say for them. It was another tough weekend for Montreal. as has been the case for a lot of weekends for them in the MLS this season. They lose 3-0 to the Revs, looked pretty well second best for most of the day, and I don't really have a whole ton to say about it otherwise. It's kind of the same story that's kind of plagued Montreal this season. Of course, a lot of turmoil surrounding Montreal at the moment, both on the pitch and off of it. So, yeah, I just think, as I keep on saying, I do think that it could be a long season for that Montreal faithful, and I do feel for the fans because I do think that they deserve a little bit better at the moment, and I do think that there are some quality players in this squad that could do something. So maybe we see them turn around, maybe, but we're going to have to see a little bit better from them, I think, than a 3-0 against the Revs. So that's my stance on Montreal at the moment. So we'll take a look at the Vancouver Whitecaps next. One of our two Canadian teams that had a big comeback over the weekend. But yeah, the Caps go up 1-0 in the 6 minutes, courtesy of Ocampo. Then they go 2-1 down ahead of halftime. Then in the 91st minute, Thomas Muller converts a penalty. In the 95th minute, Sebastian Berhalter grabs the game winner in the 95th minute. And a quick word on Portland Timbers. I thought James Pantemis, Sam, you conceded 3 goals. I thought he had a very good game in this one, made a lot of saves. Honestly, could have been a lot worse for Portland. Sadly, they couldn't replicate what he was doing up front, because I do think that he did enough to have helped win them the game in this one, but wasn't to be. I do think that he did have a good performance, so don't look at the scoreline as an indication of a poor performance from James Pantemis. I thought he had a good game. But the Vancouver Whitecaps continuing their season, looking quite good at the minute. Of course, backline, they look pretty standout at the moment. Ocampo, Blackman, Laborda, Tate Johnson, all looking good. Stepping in well for the injured Ralph Priso, because I forgot to mention for the injury updates, Ralph Priso looks like he will be out indefinitely. That is a huge blow for him, of course. And then, of course, the Whitecaps as well. That really, that just sucks. As I keep saying, I hate these injuries. But they keep on following Canada, it seems like. So, yeah, really sucks for Ralph Priso, and I hope that he gets better, and hopefully he's back sooner than maybe they anticipate. But then the midfield as well, Badwell looked very good for the Whitecaps in this one. I thought this was a very good performance from the young Canadian midfielder. He looks class. I think that he's a midfielder for Canada fans who I think watch and get excited about. Of course, he's played for Canada unofficially in the Camp Poutine match that we had back in January. And he looked good then. He's looked good for the Whitecaps throughout this season when he's had the chance. He was given the keys in this one to start the game. Looked quite good. So really happy for him there. Berhalter, he keeps looking like a proper midfielder for the Whitecaps. Thomas Muller grabbing the penalty. Brian White, I do still think they're not getting the best out of him. I think he's missing that creative spark like an Ali Ahmed, like a Jaden Nelson that they did get rid of. I do think that once Ryan Gold does come back, I do think that you will see Brian White kind of unlocked. He hasn't been bad by any stretch of the imagination this season. Of course, he has bagged himself a few goals, but I just find he's not been as involved this season as he was last season, which is a shame, because Brian White is more than just a number 9, put it in the box and I'll score. He will do that, don't get me wrong. But I do think that he's just one of those players, one of those strikers that can really help contribute to the team. So I do hope that the Whitecaps can really unlock that. But yeah, 3-2 win, comeback win, big performance from the Whitecaps. Still looking quite good throughout this season. Had a little lull before the international break, but if this is any indication, they might be out that lull, and we'll see them back to their Whitecap best. Elsewhere, TFC grabbed themselves a 3-2 comeback win. It all fell apart for them, it looked like, when Raheem Edwards got sent off. And then Colorado Rapids scored pretty much right after he was sent off. Then, in quick succession, grabbed their second, 2-0, and a man down. Wasn't looking good for TFC. But then, fortunes changed. Richie Larin grabs himself a goal. Rapids get player sent off. Own goal by Zach Steffen to tie it up at 2-2. Then Josh Sargent steps up, grabs himself his first MLS goal for the Reds. So this was a chaotic game. This was a chaotic second half, honestly. Really happy for TFC, though, in this one, because at the start of season, I said I do think that there actually is some optimism surrounding TFC this season. I actually think that they could go on and maybe get themselves into a playoff spot. And, of course, still a long season ahead. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying TFC playoffs confirmed, happening. We're good. Look at Maple Footy. Look at what we're saying, you know. But I do think if this is any indication, they are on the right track. They've shown a lot this season so far, I think, for TFC fans to be excited about, to be happy about. This game in particular, this game doesn't happen, I don't think, even last year. If they went down 2-0 and then had a guy sent off as well, and I do know the Rapids had players sent off as well, but I just don't think you see this from TFC last season. I feel like there's just a different feeling for TFC this year. Some new blood as well, I think, really helping it out. Veteran players showing their quality and why they've been with TFC for so long. I mean that in a complimentary way, in the sense that these guys, they're good. You know, Richie Larin, they're good players. They're veteran players that you want in your squad. Then, of course, you got the DPs, the new DPs. I know Mihailovic started with them mid-season last year, but still new-ish. You have him. You have Josh Sargent grabbing himself his first goal. Really happy for Sargent as well. I hate how the media sometimes depicts these guys. So I'm really happy that he grabbed that first goal. That's a huge monkey off his back, I think. Grabbing it within his first 3 games for TFC. I think that's really massive for him. So I'm happy for Josh Sargent in that one. And then Luka Gavron. we have a debate here for our Canadian MLS goalkeepers. Should Luka Gavron and James Pantemis be our number ones heading into this World Cup? Because if you look at form, you look at stats, you know, of course it will be Dane St. Clair and Maxime Crepeau. One of those two will be our number one, but I'm being more tongue-in-cheek about it. But yeah, Luka Gavron, I thought, started shaky with TFC in those first couple of games, but I think he's really starting to grow into this number one role. So I'm really happy for him. Of course, Hamilton boy, represent, love it. But yeah, outside of that, I'm happy that TFC pulled this one back. Happy that the Whitecaps pulled theirs back as well. So a lot of positives to take from those 2 MLS games, and they were entertaining, to say the least. Fans got their money's worth, if you ask me, especially with that second half for TFC alone. 3 red cards, 5 goals. DP scoring his first goal, crazy own goal, cross that ends up going in from Richie Larin. Maybe it was a shot. Who knows? To me, it looks like he might have been trying to cross it, but you know, one of those goals where I think we'll debate it. But yeah, regardless, I do think this was a really fun outing for TFC and a big win for them as well, and the Whitecaps as well, grabbing themselves a big win. So let's talk a little bit about the CPL, and we'll wrap this one up once we do that. So, looking at the CPL from this weekend, and before we start, Super and Inter Toronto did not play over the weekend, so nothing to report on for them. But first game of the season and of the weekend was Forge taking on Atletico Ottawa. So you had the regular season champs against the playoff champs, and I thought there was one team that was the clear second best on the day. I don't think Ottawa looked great. I know that they are struggling with a good few big losses. You know, Sam Salter, Nathan Ingham, David Rodriguez, Didic. There was another big one too, Dos Santos. So those are some big losses for Atletico Ottawa. But yeah, the team just didn't look fully gelled. I thought that the chemistry wasn't there. They looked a little bit rusty too. So maybe as the season goes on, we will see them kind of grow into it and grow together. But the story here was Forge, man. I thought they looked really good. Brian Wright, potentially his best performance in a Forge kit. I thought he was doing so much on the ball, so much off the ball, grabbed himself a penalty as well, beautifully taken. He looked really, really good on the day. I'm a fan of Brian Wright. I was defending him on the podcast last year as well. But yeah, I thought he looked really, really good. So hopefully he can kick on, and maybe we can see the Brian Wright of the York Players Player of the year season that he was 2 years ago. Because, I thought that this was a class performance from just a complete performance that you want from your striker. Outside of that, happy that Ben Payton, former Maple Footy man, grabbed himself a goal, his first of the season, his first at home in Hamilton. Really happy for him. That was a great little moment. Love seeing our Maple Footy boys do well. I think that Forge, the back line was standout. I think one of the big positives for Forge last season was how good their back line was, and if to this game was any indication, that could continue. I thought from left to right, Peyton, Yevremovic, Antoine Baptiste, and Rama all looked just really good, made it so that Borteau didn't have a whole ton to do in net, and I thought he commanded the box really well when he needed to, but didn't have a whole ton to do. So I think that this could be another exciting season for Forge. My only concern for Forge is the last 2 years, come around August, September, they really fade. So I think that they're going to need to figure out a way for that not to be the case this season, because in 24 and 25 they were one of the best teams in the league throughout, and then come that August-September period, I thought they really dimmed a little bit. So maybe this season that could be different. They can kick on, do really well from start to finish, and go into the playoffs, and we'll see. But of course, long season ahead. This was just one match. Next match of the weekend, Halifax Wanderers against Vancouver FC. I thought this was a back and forth one here. Vancouver FC might feel a little bit hard done by that they didn't get something from this. I thought they looked quite good, but wasn't to be. Beautiful free kick from Caligari. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on CPL socials, because 30 yards out, screamer. He just friggin' has it. Such a good goal. I'm a sucker for a free kick goal. It was a beautiful hit, man. Like that was Halifax's first goal of the season, and I don't think they're gonna top it. Not to say don't score anymore, Halifax, but they're gonna be hard pressed to top a goal of that quality. I thought it was just absolute class. But I thought the story here was Marco Carducci. He looked proper between those sticks. Halifax doesn't win this game without Marco Carducci. He made some very nice saves. Vancouver FC was just throwing everything that they had at him. And as I said, I think that they will feel very unlucky not to have gotten something from this game, because I think their performance definitely warranted at least a point from this one. But Marco Carducci was up to it all game, showing why he's one of the CPL's best keepers. He looked really, really good. So if that's any indication for the season ahead for him, we could be seeing a Golden Glove type season from him. But of course, we are only one game in. And then final game of the season, Calgary won against Pacific 2-1. Big game for Cavalry and big win for them. Harry Payton, brother of Ben Payton. So is this the first time in CPL history where brothers have scored on the same weekend? It might just be. But he scored himself a great goal. His first one in the CPL and his first one for Cavalry, as they looked quite good as well, as you would expect from Cavalry. I thought Pacific looked pretty good too, which was good to see. I was worried about Pacific going into this season. Wasn't sure they'd done maybe enough. Last season definitely was not their best season. So they needed to do something. And although they did come up short on the day, I do think that there was something to be happy about and to look forward to if you're a Pacific fan. I thought they looked pretty good, but Cavalry, of course, always going to be a tough team to beat, always going to be one of the league's best, as they have been for the last 8 years now. But I do think that that Cavalry looked quite good, and Harry Payton and Ben Payton both scoring has to be CPL history. It just has to be. I think that this could be a very exciting season in the CPL. We will be covering it as the season goes on, so it'll be really, really fun. And outside of that, I do think that this one's going to wrap it up here. I do hope you enjoyed it. This was, of course, a lot of information in this one, so I hope that some of it sticks. Final reminder, Anthony Arumaterio, that interview is going up on Friday, so definitely check that one out when it drops. In the meantime, check out our one with KJ Tavernier. That one dropped last Friday. I think that you will enjoy that one as well. Outside of that, I will be back next week, so I do hope that you are to listen, watch, however you want to consume this podcast. But if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. I do sincerely appreciate it. And until next time, cheers, everyone.
And that was your Maple Footy podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Check my socials for any and all future updates. Remember to support Canadian football, be kind, and until next time, live, laugh, little.